Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to inspiring everybody out there, and yes, I do mean you, to play bigger, because you can. To be bolder, which means you got to step out of your comfort zones so you can become the best version of you. Now, we live in a world right now, and it has been this way for hundreds and thousands of years, and I believe it will be this way for many more years to come. But it's a war between good and evil, and the only way evil wins is when good people, just like yourselves, we don't do enough. And I am committed to helping, inspiring you to bless this world with your gifts and your talents so you can make this world a better place and feel fulfilled. And I'm committed every week, Monday at 3 p.m., to bring some incredible people that are going to share their stories, that are going to share their gifts and talents with us so we can help become better along the way as well. And today I have got an incredible guest. This person is a motivational speaker. He is an author, a writer, and I'll tell you, he's a dear friend of mine, and he is incredible. He's president and CEO of Zipkoff Solutions, and here, I mean, this is a phenomenal picture of you, Steve. I mean, you're handsome. You're handsome in real life, too, but I mean, this is a great picture.
Thank you.
But Mr. Steve Zipkoff.
It's a body double.
Well, hey, look, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm so excited to have you on the show because you're such a wealth of information. And right before the show started, I said, Steve, basically, I'm just going to let you roll. You're just going to let it rip. But before we do, just tell everybody, a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, and then I'll ask you the real hard questions.
Not a problem. I was born and raised in a little town called Chicago, Illinois.
That's little.
My parents were extremely poor. They never got out of the 8th grade. They believed in education. So after I got out of college, I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I worked for multi-billion-dollar companies in marketing for about 25 years. Was relatively successful, had some pretty renowned things for the older audience. I developed the We Do Chicken Right campaign for Kentucky Fried Chicken. I developed the first value menu in restaurants for Taco Bell. As a matter of fact, I also ran an internet company it was the first internet dating service called oneandonly.com, which was eventually purchased by Match.com back in 1998.
Okay, so a couple of things. We have you to thank for the dollar menu?
Yes.
Yes.
I am that guy.
I will tell you that, I mean, now I have 5 kids and all my kids are grown, so I no longer go to the dollar menu, but I can vividly remember when the kids were younger. So here we have the man in the flesh. Second thing that I wanted to ask you, okay, so you said that you were in corporate America for about 25 years.
Yes.
And while you were there, you had success.
Yeah.
But why did you leave?
Well, I just felt that in the big multi-billion-dollar corporations, the performance wasn't the main thing. A lot of times it was how you were able to progress in the company based upon who you knew. Mm-hmm. And I was not that good at it. I was great at external politics, but not good at internal politics.
Yes.
So I decided I had 2 children in college. I came home one day and told my wife I had quit my job. After the paramedics revived her, she said, "What are you going to do with your life now?" I said, "Well, I'm going to write a book," which I did, which is the 7 stages of successful unemployment from hell to hallelujah. And I'm going to answer the question, what do I want to do with my life when I grow up?
Okay, I love that. So I want to go back up because I know the viewers are thinking this. So you literally went into work. You've got a stable job. You've got 2 kids in college, and you say, "I'm done with this."
Yeah, I quit.
He said, I'm done.
Yep.
So how long have you been contemplating that you were going to quit, that you weren't happy, you didn't like what was going on? Or did you just walk in one day and say, I don't like this, I want to change?
I probably thought about it for a couple of years before I really made the decision. And to tell you the truth, what made me make the decision was the behavior of the people who I was working with. Mainly my bosses.
Right.
And I just said, I just can't take this anymore. And I'm just going to, if I can't like who I'm working with, I'm going to start liking my boss. I started my own company.
Right.
I love the boss.
Right.
It's me. Can't ask for anything better than that.
But, you know, I do think it's really important to emphasize the fact that you do need to be happy. And when you go to work and you are there so many hours and you're putting in your blood, your sweat, your tears, your energy, and if you don't feel good and it's not a healthy environment for whatever reason, you really do need to make a change. And I got to applaud you for that, and really applaud everybody that has made those decisions in their lives. But when you said, okay, I'm done, I quit, you did know you had this book already in your mind.
Yes.
And you were like, hey, I can't write a book about being successfully unemployed if I'm employed.
Well, it's fascinating that I had been laid off, downsized, right-sized, fired, and quit most of my career. I was fired three times.
Happens.
And by the way, if you haven't been fired, you don't know what you're missing. It's the greatest thing in the world. Number one, you don't have any responsibility. And if you could afford it financially, which is one of my life lessons, I recommend it for everybody. I truly do. It's the best thing.
Right. It's almost one of those things where if you haven't gotten fired, you're not doing something right.
That's correct.
It's just the opposite, which really it just means you're being true to yourself, you're being authentic, and it is what it is. But I want to get into your life lessons, because the 6 life lessons, they're amazing. And I'm sure we're going to talk about your family as we go along. But what is your number one, your first? So we've got 6 that we're going to cover.
We have 6. The first life lesson, which is the toughest one, is you can survive a setback if you never live above your means. One of the things that people have problems with is they're in heavy debt. And when they are going to lose their job, and by the way, most people eventually do lose their jobs, they have a big problem because the financial situation causes them to do things they really shouldn't want to do, and that is take a job as opposed to look for a career.
Exactly.
And if you can survive a setback, you can survive a setback if you never live above your means. You have to budget. You have to take care of your financial situation. And I've had people tell me all the time, yes, Steve, but you were married, so you had a second income. And I say, that's irrelevant. My wife was a teacher, so she didn't make a lot of money.
Right.
The key is you must put money aside for emergencies and be ready. The other thing is, once you are unemployed, you will get a job. And once you get a job, and if you never live above your means, you'd be amazed how quickly the money can accumulate.
Well, I think that it's preparation. Preparation is the key. So when you know, and listen, I've got 5 kids. And how many kids do you have? You have 2?
I have 2 daughters.
You have 2 daughters. All right. So when you've got 5 kids, you know, you're always thinking, if you don't prepare for those 5 kids as they grow older, you know, forget it. Forget about it.
Absolutely correct.
But one of the things I think is so important that I'm doing with my kids is the importance of investing while you're young, to your point.
Yes.
I've got a 22-year-old daughter, and one of the best things I probably have had her do over the last 6 months is I got her connected with a financial planner, and she's already started investing and planning, because you don't think about these things, but this is your number one life lesson.
Absolutely.
If you're financially stable and you prepare for that, it doesn't matter what happens.
That is correct.
You're on the offense instead of the defense.
I have 2 daughters. My oldest is 48. My youngest is 45. Both of them have investment counselors. They both save. They are both financially independent. I have a young lady who is single, who owns her own home in Los Angeles.
I love it.
And it is quadrupled in value within about the last 5 years when she bought it.
Right.
They're as happy as little pigs.
Now, and you taught these principles to your children growing up. I mean, the whole entire time.
I have been my daughter's mentors ever since they were born.
That's so great.
I figure you have to mentor your children, And it was my number one priority. Staying married was number one.
Right.
Mentoring my children was number two.
I love that. And that in and of itself is a life lesson for parents, because
Yes.
I think sometimes as parents, you know, I was listening to a gentleman by the name of Andy Andrews. He's phenomenal. You probably know him. You probably met him. I don't know. But, you know, one of the things he said is parents are so worried about raising good kids when we really should be focused on raising good adults.
Yes.
And what you did with your mentoring was really prepare your daughters to be good, responsible,
Absolutely.
contributing adults. And that's what my dad did for us. I mean, my dad was a tennis pro, and he did the exact same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mentoring. Not do everything for your kids, not buy them everything, not do everything for them, have them learn how to do it on their own. But being financially stable is extremely important.
Well, you know, if you come from a family like I did, which was extremely poor, I mean, my father was a painter in the housing projects, and my mother was a non-unionized factory worker. So we really didn't have anything. The only
Right.
thing they believed in was education. So once my brother and I got educations, we moved on and we became, thank goodness, I would say very successful. My brother's very successful. I'm very successful.
Right. I love it.
And I'm semi-retired.
Okay, and now I got to ask you, do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
Not at all. I am a young 74.
74. Would you look at this? I'm serious. I was telling him, I said, I always ask Ziggy, I'm like, give me a tan. And then I got tan face over here, and I'm like,
Yes.
forget it. I can't compete with that.
Spend a lot of time at my pool when I'm not working.
But that's the luxury of doing what you do.
Yes.
And also, I think it's so amazing because our goal in life, in my opinion, is that we contribute every day of our lives, and that we can be 100 years old and you can still be contributing in a positive way. And that's really what you've done. You've created your life like that. So your number two life lesson is something I
Well,
love.
I have a story first.
Okay, you got
when I moved from Chicago to Dallas, I found something very interesting. I found out it gets very warm here in the summer.
Yes, it does.
So one day I was lounging around in my house on a Saturday. It was 107 degrees in July, and I heard my wife say, "Steve, I need you to clean the attic." And I said to her, I said, "But honey, if it's 107 outside, it's got to be 180 degrees in the attic."
Right.
She said, "Well, that's okay. It will be like working in a sauna. You need to do that." So I went up to the attic, I started to clean it, and I came across a receipt for a pair of shoes that I left at the shoe repair shop. And on further notice, I saw it was 10 years old. And I mentioned that to my wife, and my wife said, "Well, let's go get them." And I said, "Well, this will get me out of the attic. Let's go get them." So we went into the shoe repair shop. There was an old man behind the counter. I gave him the receipt. I said, "I've come for my shoes." He said, "Do you realize this receipt's 10 years old?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Well, the shoes are probably in the back." So he goes into the back, you hear shoes flying all over the place, and then you hear, "Aha, I found them." But when he comes back, he doesn't have the shoes. And I said, "Wait a minute, I heard I found them. Where are the shoes?" He said, "They'll be ready Tuesday." Now, the reason I tell you that story is because that leads to life lesson number two. Humor will get you through anything.
100%.
Folks, you gotta laugh at life.
You have
it's
to.
It's too serious not to laugh at it. You've got to make jokes of things. You've got to look for the humor in everything. If you're unemployed, if you're going through life, make some fun, make people laugh, just make them giggle. You will be amazed. Not only will it help you survive, it will help them realize you're a good person. And if you could laugh, there's nothing better.
Well, in one of my segment at the very end that I end every show with is laughter is the best medicine, because I feel the exact same way. I just think the physiological benefits of laughing, they're just tenfold.
Yes.
But there's just something, it puts you in the right state of mind, because what I tell people all the time is nothing lasts forever. Your good times don't last forever either, folks. I mean, your bad times aren't going to last forever. Your good times aren't going to last forever. And what you take with you is that ability to laugh.
Yes.
And I think sometimes you know, in my opinion, you learn more during the hard times than you do the easy times. Yes. So you got to be laughing. And the person that introduced us together is a great friend of mine and a good friend of yours
Yes.
as well, Ala Bardov. And we've done a lot of crazy things together. And I'm telling you, we have had some of the biggest, just most hysterical laughs when other people are just flat out rude as hell. You know, I mean, it's like, and we just die laughing. We're like, how did that person just say that to us? And we laugh about it.
It got me through corporate America. It got me through my own business. You know, there are times when you have your own business, you're going to run into a roadblock or two. But if you can laugh at it, you can move forward faster, and you could live better by living smart. Believe me, you could laugh at anything. You could survive at anything. I contend the reason I look the way I look, and I think I look pretty good for a guy 74 years old, because I laugh at everything.
That's right.
I don't consider anything too serious.
That's exactly right.
Because if you look at things and you always look at it negatively, you're going to be a negative person.
You are. And that stress is going to be on your face, and you're not going to be tan and handsome like Steve is over here.
That's right. Absolutely correct.
But one of your favorite quotes has to do with laughter as well, which is?
If you're laughing, you're listening, and if you're listening, you're learning.
And I love that, because life is about learning.
Yes.
You've got to learn. You've got to laugh. And how many times has somebody told you a joke, or you're in the you know, a group of people, and a joke is told, and somebody doesn't laugh because they're not listening. So there's a lot of people that might be physically present, but they're not completely present.
Every one of my speeches, and I have 11 different topics, is based upon if you're laughing, you're listening. If you're listening, you're learning. I've seen a lot of speakers, they get up, they tell an anecdotal story, they tell a joke, everybody laughs, and then for the rest of the speech, they want to kill themselves because it's so boring.
Exactly.
Whether it's an hour speech or a 3-hour workshop, I can keep people laughing for that entire time. 3:01, forget it.
Yeah.
But 3 hours, I'm cool. I can do it for 3 hours.
1 minute to 3 hours.
Yes, that's my goal.
And that's a big commitment.
Yeah, it really is.
Do. And here's another thing before we go to number 3 is I think you mentioned this, but you have to laugh at yourself. I mean, you can't take yourself so seriously. I make mistakes all the time. In fact, when my kids were younger, I have 3 kids, and 3 biological kids, 2 bonus kids, and they're all 5 amazing. But I remember when my 3 biological were young, and I would be just one thing after another, where I would say, is there a camera following me around? Is there a camera following me around? Because they want me to crack. Yeah. And instead of cracking, I just would laugh.
I make fun of me all the time.
You have to.
If you cannot make fun of yourself and laugh at yourself, you should not make fun and laugh at other people.
And I like to do both. I do like to laugh.
I love being the brunt of jokes. I think it's the best.
It is.
First of all, if it's like nicknames. If they give you a nickname, that means at least they like you.
Exactly.
That's right.
If you don't have a nickname, somebody doesn't like you. I mean, that's what I'm just saying. Everybody's got to have a nickname. That's because correct. That is. And if you're given a hard time, it's because
that's correct.
Now, number 3.
My third life lesson is it's not what you know, it's who you know.
And that's very important.
I think it's extremely important, because no matter how smart you are, if in fact you don't know the right people to get you into the right situation, it doesn't matter how smart you are. People, this is still a relationship country. This is still a relationship world. No matter how great the technology is, believe me, it's the interpersonal relationships that get you through life. So when I say it's not what you know, it's who you know. The who you know gets you where you have to go. The what you know keeps you there.
Exactly. And it will never, ever be a time where face-to-face, person-to-person, relationship to relationship is out the door. There'll just never be
Always.
A time. Just like remember when we thought that when the Blockbuster came out that nobody would go to the movies. People still go to the movies.
Yeah.
People still go to the movies. We watch movies.
And there's no longer Blockbuster.
Exactly. They left.
Movies are still around.
But movies are still around, and so will the importance of networking and relationships. Yes. And I don't think people realize that networking and relationships is really about how can you add value to other people's
Yes.
lives? It's not, hey, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? It's like, I know Steve can do a lot for me, but it's not what can Steve do for me? It's what can I do for Steve? And as we go down the path of developing a friendship and a relationship, then it just naturally happens.
One of the things I always say is, tell me what I can do for you.
Exactly.
I think it's extremely important to do that. People lose sight, especially if they're not working, they spend a lot of time networking, then they get a job, and all of a sudden they forget to network. Folks, you should never forget networking. I tell people, ask me, well, when should I not network? I never. You always network.
Always. And and here's the thing too is, there was a time in my life when I was a stay-at-home mom, and I still did contract work, but you still have to network,
Yes.
even when you're a stay-at-home mom, not just for your own personal success, but for the success of your children.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to tell you something right now. We've got a gentleman by the name of Jamal Adams who plays for the Jets. He's phenomenal, and they lived in our neighborhood. And I have just got to give kudos to his father, George Adams, who also played in the NFL, but he networked for his son and for his daughter as well, but he was an advocate for his family. So even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you still have to network. If you're a stay-at-home dad, whatever the situation is, because also too is we're the examples. If our children don't see us doing those things, they're not going to do it.
Absolutely. Networking is key. That's why who you know is such an important life lesson.
It is.
It really is.
And one thing I will say, my dad was amazing at this, but I can remember vividly as a young child, my dad would just make everybody feel so wonderful.
Great.
And they would always have this great smile on their face, and that's what he taught us, and that's what we mirrored, and that's exactly what you do. And he does, thinking about all these 6, this just popped into my head, but all these 6 life lessons he taught. And I mean, all of them. And number 4, he did as well.
Number 4 is a tough one. It's don't get pigeonholed. And what I mean by that is if you work in an industry and all of a sudden the industry starts to collapse and you're looking for another opportunity, the first thing people ask you is, well, what's your experience? Well, if that experience is in an industry that is collapsing, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting out of that industry. And I'll give you a great example. My entire career was spent in retail and in fast food. I was at Burger King, Taco Bell. I can't believe it's yogurt. I was at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so everybody considered me a fast food marketing expert.
Right.
And I said, well, no, I'm a marketing expert, not a fast food marketing expert. I didn't get my degree in fast food marketing. I got my degree in marketing.
Exactly.
But everybody said, well, all you know is fast food marketing. And I said, no, that's not true. The biggest problem I have with corporations and recruiters today is they put experience in an industry as opposed to the discipline.
Exactly. That's a good point.
If experience was so important, why don't they teach the experience in college? They don't. They teach the discipline. They teach marketing. They teach economics. They teach computer science. They teach engineering. They don't teach healthcare, automotive, travel.
That's right. But that is such an excellent point. It's the discipline. And you have to understand that so you can differentiate that in your own mind so you can communicate that in an authentic way. I love that.
And my biggest problem with companies was they said, well, you know fast food marketing. And you know how I finally got out of the pigeonhole?
You quit and wrote a book?
I quit and wrote a book and started my own company. And I stayed away from fast food. I mean, I eat it. I just don't market it anymore.
But I think that is very important. That's an important fact that we all understand and we realize. But also, too, I think it really supports your previous life lesson, which is if you're networking and people know that you're so much more than your career. We are not what we do. We are who we are.
Yes.
And when you're networking and people realize, oh my gosh, Steve's got all these gifts, he's got all these talents. It makes it a lot easier to not get pigeonholed.
Yes.
And I do think that's really important, because I think it's even an individual person's mindset that they pigeonhole themselves.
It's very difficult once you get a pigeonhole mindset to get out of it. You have to really work hard at it. But it's not insurmountable. You can do it.
Of course you
I
can.
did it by starting my own business. People who don't want to be entrepreneurs, that's fine. But make sure when you start to network, you try and network outside of your industry,
Yes,
so you
that's
don't
important.
get pigeonholed.
One of the things my husband says to me all the time is, he says, Jens, you've got all this confidence for no good reason.
Well,
And what he means by that is, exactly to your point, this life lesson is, I've never ever allowed a job, a position, a role to define me, because to me, that's not why I was put on this earth. I wasn't put on this earth to be in healthcare, or to be in health and wellness, or to be in management. That's not the reason I was put on this earth. I was put on this earth to bless the world with my gifts and talents, which is really to inspire others to live their best lives and to become the best version of themselves.
and you do a fabulous job
Well,
of it.
thank you.
My
I
pleasure.
love it. I have a lot of fun, which goes to number 5.
Well, number 5 is give and you shall receive. And what that means is you literally have to give back to the community. You have to volunteer in some way. You just can't be all about yourself. You have to be about other people. And the interesting thing about giving is when you begin to give, you in fact will receive. But the giving comes first. Don't ask for people to help you unless you can help other people first. And that life lesson is extremely important. I do a lot of volunteer work. I speak at a lot of groups which are unemployed. I do that for free because I just think it's important. You just have to give back to the community.
You do. You have to. And I think that's really important. One of the things I like is that, if you want to receive, you can't receive if your hands are closed.
That's correct.
And when you're giving, your hands are open and you receive more. And plus, to me, there's just some absolute truths in life. And that's one of them. To receive, you have to give.
Yep.
And you can either accept that and you receive, or you can resist it and you're not going to receive. It just is how it is.
And you can decide how you want to live your life.
And you can decide how you want to give.
But if you want to be successful, you literally have to give back to the community. How
have
you
to.
give back to the community, that's up to you.
That's right.
But make sure you give back. You don't have to, it's not a function of donating.
Right.
It could be giving your time. It could be mentoring people. It could be a big brother, big sister. Whatever you feel is appropriate for you, make some time, give back to the community, and I can promise you 100% you will get that back. Double, triple, quadruple than what you give.
Yes, I am for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and I will tell you, I've been with a company, a network marketing company, Nerium International, and Nerium is actually one of the largest corporate sponsors for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And I've always, I give monthly to BBBS, but I will tell you, I have walked many stages, receiving big cash awards for the work that I've done, award-winning leader, blah, 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 this other stuff. But I was actually at an event where they had all of the bigs stand up. That was my seriously most proudest moment.
Fabulous.
I was so emotional because it was the time and the mentoringship and, the things, the lessons. I can remember one time with a situation where he said, Miss Jens, and he wanted to do something. It wasn't the right thing to do. And I said, well, it's not the right thing to do. And he said, well, yeah, but nobody will know. And I said, well, we will know.
Yeah.
You will know, and I will know. And that's reason in and of itself for us to not do that. And you should have seen the look, and he was like, yeah, you're right. But that concept never came into his mind. And I will say, you can't take any money with you. You're not going to be able to. Now, you can leave it for your kids, and I'm preparing to have a lot of money left for my kids.
That's my goal.
But my parents have done the same. But you can't take that with you.
Yeah.
But the person you become while you're giving and serving other people, it's amazing.
My children are expecting it more than I expect to give it to them. They're already waiting in line.
I think ours are too.
The guy's 74. How long can
It's
he
like,
last?
come on, how long is he gonna be
Come
going?
on, let's get with this. Come
Yeah.
on, Dad. I don't have all day.
Yeah, yeah. They'll be too old to enjoy it. They're like, hold on
I
a
hope
second.
not.
Now, and then your last life lesson.
My last one is, and this is an interesting one, it's opportunities come in the strangest guises. You never know who you're going to be standing next to. You never know who you're going to be talking to, who could be the greatest gift you'll ever receive. And I'll give you an example, how I started my business. I remember on a Sunday, my wife and I and another couple decided to go to the original Pancake House for Sunday brunch.
I remember the original.
We're sitting in a lobby, and it was very crowded, small lobby. An elderly couple walk in. I jump up and I say, take our seats. We're going to be called next. He sits down and he says, young man, do you have a moment? And I said, yes. He said, you said we're going to, sit down. We're going to be called next. Why do you think you're going to be called next? And I said, well, I'm the ultimate optimist, and we've been sitting here quite a long time. He said, what do you do for a living? I'm not kidding. This is a true story. And I said, well, I just started a management education company called Zipkoff Solutions, and I help companies rejuvenate revenue profitably. He says, I need you to come to my office tomorrow, which was Monday.
Yes.
He gave me his name, and he told me where he worked, but I forgot to get his phone number. Thank God it was a company I knew, and I tracked down the phone number. I called him the next morning. He says, I want you to come in right away. I came in right away. He says, I don't have anything for you, but I know someone who could definitely use your talents. He introduced me to the person. I called up the gentleman, and I introduced myself, and he says, well, this guy never recommends anybody to anyone. You need to come in right away.
Right.
I came in right away because I wasn't doing anything. By the way, I had no revenue. I had no clients. I had no potential. I went in to meet the guy. We talked for a half hour. He says, I'm going to hire you to develop a strategic marketing plan for my company. And he did. This was 3 weeks after I started my business. It was a 5-month project. They paid me, I had no problem. They paid me $50,000 for it. 3 weeks later, I got my second big client, and it's now been 26 years that I've been on my own, and I've been motivational speaking for the past 15 years.
Yeah, and I love that story. There's so many lessons in that story. Number one, you were out and about. You weren't sitting at your house.
Nope.
You were out, and you were friendly, and you were positive, and then when the gentleman gave you his information, you followed up and you acted and you did. I think so many times we have opportunities that come to us and we don't take advantage of them because we just kind of blow it off. And I did tell you earlier that I said, I asked Steve, I said, Steve, from the time you started your new business till the time you started to become profitable, how long was it? And he said 3 weeks. And I said, people aren't going to like you.
Well, unfortunately, it's true.
People aren't going to like you. Well, they're not going to like, but that doesn't happen to everybody, okay? It doesn't.
No, it does not.
It does not happen to everybody. I always tell people, have proper expectations. Success happens in decades, but I promise you from the time you started your business to 10 years in, you are probably a superstar because it does take a while to master your craft and everything. But the big lesson is I think you have to, everything happens for a reason. Yes. And there you were at the original Pancake House. What did you order that day?
An apple pancake, as a matter of fact. I can remember
I knew you would remember.
I remember it.
I knew you would remember. That's why I asked you.
People look at that or hear that story and they say, well, that's unrealistic. It might be unrealistic, but it happens. It happens to people all the time. But what you have to do is you have to recognize that it could happen. The other thing is, when you're going out and about, people have a tendency to stay within themselves.
That's so true.
You have to get out. You have to be a little more extroverted. If you're an introvert, practice in front of a mirror. If you go to a networking event with other people, leave the other people who you know and meet people you don't know. That's the key to being success, meeting people you don't know. You never know where that opportunity is going to take place. You have to be ready for it. In my case, when he asked me what I did for a living, I said, simple. I rejuvenate revenue profitably.
Right. It was
Three
very
words.
clear, very clear and
Three
concise.
words.
Well, to me, this goes right along with our Ask Jen's question for the week. And I do my best to be able to take a question that somebody sends us and really match it to the content of our show. And I think this is a great one for today. And that is, what's the most important thing I should be working on to have more success? Now, obviously, I will tell you, in my opinion, there's 3 steps to living a very fulfilled, happy life where you're going to create and leave a legacy on this earth. And step number 1 is you. It will always be you. Step number 2 is your professional career, and step number 3 is your legacy. So it's personal development, professional development, and legacy development. And within step number 1, your goal is to develop yourself into a top performing leader. To what we are hearing and what we're discussing today, it's the discipline. And out of everything that comes along with you, you can't succeed by yourself. But I think the most important thing is to be able to discern the people that can help you the most and be coachable. So, in my opinion, we've got this incredible person here, and you have lived and you're breathing the success, the experience. So when somebody finds somebody like you, listen to them. When you don't have the success in a certain area, it doesn't mean you can't have that success. Just go to a person that has had success in what you want success in. Ask them. Do whatever they say to do.
I mentor a lot of people. I don't mean to interrupt, but I mentor a lot of people. I'm also a mentor at Southern Methodist University for MBA students.
Yes, I love that. I read that on your bio too, and it's important. You have to surround yourself with great people. And talking about laughter, ending up with our Laughter is the Best Medicine segment, I really want people out there. I want you to go and find hysterical videos that just make you laugh. I mean, just the hard belly laugh.
Absolutely.
I also want you to go out and make silly, funny videos. And the video for Laughter is the Best Medicine today it's somebody that went out and they kind of did a spoof on Hurricane Florence, and that's what we're going to watch right now.
Hurricane Florence is really getting bad. There's beer bottles everywhere. Do not come to this area. I'm telling you, the conditions is deteriorating quick. I can't stand it.
Is that not hysterical? The guy in the back. So there's a guy in the back that's making his jacket go up
Hysterical.
and down. His friends are throwing beer cans at him. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I want. That's the juicy, magical things I want you to be doing out there, because you know how much fun they had to have doing that?
I can imagine.
I mean, it's like they were probably dying laughing, just throwing beer at that guy and just this, I mean, I don't want us to say
Absolutely.
that, Hurricane Florence is not a serious thing,
Sure.
because it is.
Absolutely.
And there are so many ways that we can help, to your point,
Sure.
to give, to receive, that we can help make that area a better place. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, we can laugh.
Gotta laugh.
And we can, because we're not going to ever stop Mother Nature from having hurricanes.
Just
Steve.
remember, funeral is spelled F-U-N.
I know. I love that. Now I'm going to be looking for all the words that have F-U in it, but that's so true. Funeral has F-U in it.
Yes.
Yeah, now, is that something you just popped up into your
Well,
head?
yes.
See? It was inspired that we let everybody know that. And it was inspired to have us meet. You have been such a blessing in my life, and I've just known you for a short period.
Appreciate it.
I'm really excited because Steve is going to be coming to our eWoman Network chapter, and you're going to be speaking on October 4th.
Yes.
So if anybody does want some more meat, we got just really just a taste of who you are and what you are able to offer to the world. But if you are interested, we are going to be at October 4th. We're going to be at an amazing venue if you're around the area and you'd like to join us. And I also want to say that if you have watched this and you've gotten just one valuable point, if it's made you feel good, if you've laughed, share it. Share it with your friends, share it with your families, because we were not sent here to this earth to learn the way by ourselves. We're sent here to learn and then to share with others. Always remember that our success is for God's glory, and that anything and everything that you've seen somebody else do, you too can do it. You're here to create a life of your dreams and help bless others along the way. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
It is my pleasure.
We'd love to have you come back again.
I would love to.
I'm going to do some videos with this guy right here. They're going to be hysterical. So you'll see us in that capacity. But until we meet again, be big, be bold, be you. And we'll see you next Monday at 3 p.m. Central. Bye-bye.